Hello everybody, in today's episode, America comes to Scotland. I'm driving a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500, and this is a Dodge. I know that nowadays Dodge has been dropped and Ram has been spun off as its own sub-brand, but this is from the era when they were still Dodges. This is the Rumblebee edition, an edition so limited that they made a couple of goes at a limited run. This is one of 5,000, more accurately number 381 out of 5,000. It is big, it is mean, it is silly, and it is quite a bit of fun. I'm about to take it on a road that's probably a bit inappropriate, but then when you're in this car in this country, everything is somewhat inappropriate. When I was in the States, I did a review on the Nissan Frontier, and I called that a typical American pickup truck. Quite a few people corrected me, saying that no, that wasn't a typical American truck at all. An F-150 would be an American truck, and I accept that criticism. This, I suppose, is the closest thing to an F-150 that I'm likely to get my hands on until I go back to the States. Really was a bit of a random offering, this one, and I'm very grateful to its owner, Doug, for bringing it out. It's quite different to everything else that I have driven this week. This car originally had a 5.7 litre V8 Hemi engine in it, producing in the region of about 350 horsepower. Unfortunately, something went a little bit wrong and the car lost its oil pressure. Unfortunately, the pressure warning light was mistaken for a false alarm, and it wasn't until too late that it was discovered that it actually wasn't telling fibs at all. And so Doug did the only sensible thing that you could possibly do in that scenario and have the engine rebuilt with a 6.7 litre stroker kit. Now, the kit is good for up to about 500 horsepower if mapped and set up correctly. The car isn't yet set up correctly, so I shan't be giving it the beans all that much, but I think you'll hopefully get a little taste of what the car's all about, and then perhaps if I return next year and Doug's in good spirits, I might be able to have another crack at it if she's performing better. But this thing's just such an oddity in this country that I simply couldn't turn it down. Now, the interior is actually fairly luxurious, clean and tidy for an American pickup. Most of them, certainly in their native land, have a very hard life indeed, but this one actually seems to have been pretty well looked after. Doug's done about 40,000 miles in it, and in that time it has required quite a bit of maintenance. If you're watching from the USA, one of the things you need to understand about maintaining a big American car is that all the problems you guys would have trying to maintain a Lotus, we have with one of these. That is to say, parts are not easy to come by, they have to be shipped from abroad, they can take quite a while, and by the time they've got through customs and you've paid for shipping across the Atlantic and everything else, they can actually be kind of expensive. So you have to be a pretty dedicated person to run one of these. I know Jamie's just picked himself up an old Dodge truck which has had a Volvo engine swap, and I gotta say, Jamie, if you're watching, that is a very cool truck. Now, this one is a single cab, which means that it's not actually ridiculously long, it's just very tall. It also makes exactly the kind of noise that you'd hope an American pickup would. It's all thunder and bluster and fire and brimstone, and it's just wicked driving along. Those side exit pipes also look positively badass. The steering in is actually really surprisingly nice. I would have just thought it would be utterly horrible, but it seems to be geared quite quickly. It responds very, very well. Power! Now, the weak point in this car presently is the 5-speed automatic gearbox. It's trying to cope with a hell of a lot more power than it was meant to. Fortunately today it's quite a bit cooler than yesterday, but the box itself isn't enjoying running through town at low speed, so hopefully it's going to appreciate being up on the hill, well, one with the other side of it, and going to get itself a chance to chill out a little bit. I mean, the great thing about these trucks, in theory, is that when you're in the States, there are so many bits for them, like many American cars, you can do basically anything you want to them. kind of getting used to the driving position. You can actually see a reasonable amount of that bonnet, so it's reasonably okay to place. It is still absolutely huge. It's not the quickest thing in the world, although I am being deliberately gentle with it on this section of road in particular. Fortunately, there is very little traffic out there today, and actually for the first time ever I can see what it looks like over here. All the other cars I've driven along here in, I can't see diddly squat over here, and it's actually really pretty. I'm probably about 2.5 foot, 3 foot higher than the last car I drove along here. The car is actually fairly comfortable. It's been raised at the front, and it does look, in my mind, just right. It's not silly, it's not stupid. The little yellow graphics kind of suit it, really. It's kind of a Matchbox car made real, this thing. It's really quite cool. Now, if you're wondering what a luxurious American truck interior feels like, if you know what a luxurious 1990s Japanese car feels like, it's kind of the same. I mean, they are getting a lot better. I think they may even have actual leather in the newer ones. I've seen a lot of pictures of them and seen a couple in the flesh, and they're getting better. They're still about 10-15 years behind the curve, but then most of the cars over there are, so that's not really a big issue. I talk in many reviews about expectations. You see, when you get in any car, you're going to compare it against two things. The last car you drove and what you think it should be like. If you get in a Ferrari, you're going to expect it to handle great, sound great, look great, be really fast. When you look at one of these, you want it to be a big old brute of a thing that makes silly V8 noises, has loads of space in it, and makes you feel like you are the biggest, baddest mother on the road. And this does exactly that. This thing is just silly. Completely silly, completely inappropriate, and I do rather love it. I suppose if you had to deal with one every day, you just start to get annoyed at all of its flaws, the slightly scary handling, the fact it's massive, the fact that it drinks like Oliver Reed, all that sort of stuff. But for a little bit of fun, it's great. Anyway, that is a brief look at the Dodge Ram 1500 from an English perspective. Hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you for the next one. We got one car left in this series, and it's a good one. Bye-bye.